think the practice of meditation is probably the most impactful and profound. We're too used to catering to people. It shouldn't be easy. Like, you're disciplining your mind. Just sit with yourself and like let yourself be frustrated. Like, that is where you're working. You can battle yourself in your mind as long as you stay, like you're staying power in discomfort. I think that's where the power of focus comes from. And like finding those same things in life, you know, can you sit through discomfort, the yoga off the mat, and stay with it, you know?
That's so true. Like, our culture is about how do we make ourselves more comfortable? And you lose your resilience, really. Instead of finding ways to make your life easier, find ways to cultivate strength to deal with the hardship that comes. Hello and welcome to Curious Ones podcast by Yandara. I'm Yael Ginsberg, the host of the podcast, a yoga and meditation teacher and philosophy lover. Each week you will hear eye-opening interviews with the different teachers of the Yandara Yoga Institute, located in beautiful Baja, Mexico, along with other teachers that pass through here. This life-changing knowledge, shared through authentic, heartfelt communication, will help you live a happier, more fulfilled, and connected life. Let's dive in. Hello, welcome back to Curious Ones podcast by Yandara. I'm Yael Ginsberg, and today I have a special guest. She is a retreat and teacher training facilitator, specializing in movement, meditation, Kundalini, Tantra, and breathwork. And she is the co-founder of Soul School, Sierra Madre.
Hello, so nice to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. It's been nice hanging out here at Yandara for a little over a week now. We've gotten to get to know each other a little, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. You shared with me that you started your teacher training or your yoga teaching journey in Canada, and then you moved to Mexico, and we talked about that process and what it has brought up for you. So please tell us in your words.
Well, my yoga teaching career, it's been almost 14 years now, which really feels crazy because I'm only 33. But you know, it's almost like I'm going through the same process I did 10 years ago of trying to find my footing as a yoga teacher.
In the new place.
In Mexico, yeah. Because no one knows who I am. No one cares about, like, there is no network to tap into. Like, no one cares about my reputation. They just don't know what I've done. And so it's very humbling and also, like, truthfully, I've been loving the fact that nobody knows who I am. Like,
really?
The Scorpio side of me loves to be invisible. And so I was like, going to Mexico, like, who will I be? Not like, maybe I won't even be a yoga teacher, you know? But alas, no, I only went to yoga classes. I'm only really passionate about yoga. But yeah, it's been like almost a little frustrating, I guess, because you don't want to be arrogant, and yet you still need to really find your voice and be able to share like who you are and your expertise, and like find your voice and be confident, and like gauge those moments when it's appropriate and when it's not appropriate, and, you know, be respectful to the senior teachers that are also in the area I'm in. But yeah, it's been a lot of death and rebirth of leaving this whole life behind of like my country, my family, my career, not really my career, kind of my career, to like start this new life. And yeah, it's been hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think so many people can relate to this, because whether you're experienced yoga teacher and like starting in a new place or whether you're just starting on your path, the process of getting established and finding your places and the students and your teachers and, you know, just your routine can be challenging in different levels or places that you're in. So I think this could be beneficial to many people listening. Can you tell us a bit about how you approached it when you arrived in the new place? How did you start putting yourself out there, meeting people, working?
I really just went to all the different studios, and I was just doing a little taste tester, like seeing which studios I resonated with, which teachers I liked. And from that, I think I now work at almost half of the studios in Puerto Escondido, which isn't what I was really trying to do. It's actually like, I think the big no-no of becoming a yoga teacher is you can burn out so quickly trying to just like get noticed and get seen that you take every single subclass and you take every opportunity. You're like, yeah, I'll take it. Oh yeah, I'll take it. The reality is if no one knows you as a teacher yet, no one's really coming to your classes. And so you can spend a lot of energy showing up somewhere, and then it's just a lot of your wasted time. Or affiliating with studios that aren't fully, you know, they don't have a brand, they don't have a following yet, and they're maybe depending on you to bring that because you're a good teacher. But I don't have a following yet. Like, I'm new to your city, I'm new to your town. And so it's like this unclear expectation of the two. And so it's kind of, I just went to a bunch of studios. I started, becoming friends with the teachers. We had common interests. I just let a few studios know, like, hey, if you ever need a sub, like, I'm happy to like do a demo or whatever you need.
So humbling.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then I think some of them also started following me on social media, which kind of helped because they're like, oh, you teach yoga teacher training. So it's like, yes, like I really can teach. I can teach a half a class if you really need me to, But, you have to, I think humility is just such an attractive trait, but it can also sabotage you sometimes when you just don't say your level of expertise. And so, then I think I'm on sub list for many studios right now. But now it's kind of like, okay, I get to choose. And so I'm starting to turn down studios and direct my energy more to the communities that I really resonate with. And, there's some studios I don't want to be affiliated with, I realize. Like, they don't have a strong following. They're not seen as like a certain caliber of teachers that work there. And for my own growth, it's kind of like, okay, if it's not this, then it's not just going to be anything. And so I'm being a lot more discerning now, and I've stepped back from a lot of roles, and I'm just kind of patiently like waiting for an opportunity to open up with the studios I really want. And actually, I did this little like manifestation sort of seance thing to call it in, and it was saying like I was in a bathtub of like letting go so I could make space for new opportunities. And literally the next day, the top 3 studios that I was like calling that I wanted to work with all texted me and was like, can you give a demo? Can you have an interview? Can you sub for this class? And I was like 1 hour apart from each other. The next day.
What?
I was like, oh my God, magical. So
but it's like that. That's how it works.
That's how it works.
I love the letting go in order to bring in. I also want to kind of highlight, because this is really the best way to start, that when you want to start working with a studio, you start by subbing, like giving a demo and just meeting the people, and then slowly you see like which door opens, basically. But let's go into the
ceremony?
Ceremony, for sure.
Okay. So yes, I was spread quite thin. I was teaching at all these studios. I was kind of in a rough place with my partner too, so I don't even know if the ceremony was fully for that, but it was just like I have too much on my plate. Like, I can't really focus. And we had rented this Airbnb, and I was in this bathtub, and bathtubs are very rare in Mexico. So I was like chilling in this bathtub like it was a sofa. Like I was just in this bathtub, whether it was full of water or whether I was in my clothes. And so I finally took a bath in it. And something called to me where it was quite funny. I chilled in it a lot.
He comes into the house, where's Sierra? In the bathtub.
But it was a full moon that night, and you could see the moon from the bathtub, and something inside of me just said, like, stay in the tub until all the water is out. And it was like one of those giant tubs, and I was just sitting in it. My partner was doing something I don't even know, and as it was draining and I could like feel the water creeping down my legs, I was just like repeating, let go. Like, I let go all that doesn't serve me. Like, I release, I let go, until I didn't hear the like suction of the drain and all the water was completely gone. And I was like, I don't know what happened, but I think that's the importance of ceremony, is you kind of do it and then you have to let it go and just trust that the universe heard your prayer. And then, yeah, honestly, the next day we were driving home, and things with my relationship were kind of weird, but I don't think it was really for that. It was more for my career, and it just made some spaciousness in all ways for me to just be more open, be more bored. And then, yeah, I got all these messages, like literally the next day, one after another and I had applied for the one studio before. I had done a demo and they just never called me back. And I was just like, don't take it personally. It's okay. Still went to their classes because I'm like, even if I don't teach here, like, I still love the studio. I still want them to see that I'm committed. And the other ones, I'd like message them so many times, like, do you need a teacher? Do you need a teacher? They're like, no. And then finally they're like, hey, we need a teacher now. And I was like, all right.
Wow. What I love about that it really shows that anything can be a ceremony, as long as you treat it in that way and you like put yourself in that space or create that space for yourself, whether it's in the bathtub or with a candle or walking in nature or whatever you feel called by. You can do that ceremony by just the energy that you create with it.
Well, I think that's like what makes, that's why yoga, I think, is such a powerful part of like ceremony and all this sort of like witchy culture that's coming up now that a lot of yogis resonate with, is you have to focus when you're doing a ceremony. You can't be manifesting and then also be distracted by this like fantasy or memory or nostalgia. Like, all your energy has to be in the mantra of what you're doing and be able to discern. Because if another thought comes in there, you're going to manifest that. Like, you have to have a strong mind to be like, I'm just doing this. I'm just manifesting this. And like yoga, I think, really helps make all the seances and energetic work. Like, that's the component that makes them potent and makes them work. You know, You can't just light the candle. You have to like focus.
That is so true. And I find myself mentioning that in classes a lot of the times, that the yoga practice is not really about where you put the arm or the leg or what you do with your body. It's more about what you cultivate with your mind. So how does one go about that? Deciding where to put your focus, which thoughts you allow in and which you don't.
I mean, I think the practice of meditation, like just classic, traditional, sit with your eyes closed meditation, is probably the most impactful and profound. We're too used to catering to people so that they want to do yoga that we've kind of strayed away from the essence of what yoga is. And it's
so true.
It's not
so
easy.
True.
Yeah. It shouldn't be easy. Like, you're disciplining your mind. Like, there are 1 billion neurons up there and you're trying to focus on one of them. Like, of course it might be easier if you're doing like a walking meditation, or it just kills me when people are like, oh, I like to meditate when I do this. I'm like, oh, you're not cool, but like, you're not meditating. And like, just sit with yourself and like let yourself be frustrated. Like, that is where you're working. So otherwise, it's kind of like you're showing up to the gym, but you're not picking anything up and you're expecting yourself to get strong. Like you have to resist the urge and come back to presence. And it's in that coming back that like the mind strengthens. And it's in that discomfort of letting yourself be everywhere and like feeling like you suck at it. But you're sitting there and your eyes are closed, so you're doing it, right? It's the moment we suck is the moment we open our eyes and get up and do something else. But you can battle yourself in your mind as long as you stay, like you're staying power in discomfort. I think that's where the power of focus comes from. And like finding those same things in life, you know? Can you sit through discomfort, the yoga off the mat, and stay with it, you know? Stay in conflict with maybe a loved one and not run away, or stay in discomfort because you know the delayed gratification is like worth the discomfort you're enduring right now.
Wow, I love so much that you said that, because that's so true. Like our culture is about how do we make ourselves more comfortable, especially in the US. It's all about comfort. You want something, you order it, it's 5 minutes later, it's at your door. You don't even have to leave your house and you have everything at your fingertips. And it really, you lose your ability to, your resilience, really. Any small thing that comes moves you or knocks you over because you haven't practiced being in the discomfort or staying stable and strong in the face of hardship. And I spoke about this with a friend recently about like, he was like, I try during my classes, I try not to make people feel uncomfortable. And I was like, they want you to be a little bit strict with them because people need to be pushed. They need you to hold a higher standard for them so they rise up to the occasion. So I love that you said that, because it really is like something that us as teachers can step into that role, but also every single person in their own place. Instead of finding ways to make your life easier, find ways to cultivate strength to deal with the hardship that comes.
I actually, like, we're doing our YTT now, and like asana, I think all the limbs of yoga, like, but meditation, breath work, and asana are the best practices that you can translate off the mat. And the asana component, when the girls are teaching, it's actually the students that get us to hold the poses way, way, way longer that we love. And we actually feel more frustrated. Like the feedback we're giving is like, that was way too short. Like, why didn't you get us to hold us there, get us to hold the pose longer? But that's, I think, the real power of a teacher is when you can see your students in discomfort, but know that saving them is actually not the medicine. Like the medicine is like, how can you make it comfortable enough, the setting, like you're not changing them, you're just holding the space, you know, you're just holding them in their discomfort and being like, I still see you, I'm still counting, we're still doing this, like don't leave yet. And it's that like accountability where people are forced to endure more. And after it's like, oh, you're so grateful that your teacher made you do that crazy thing. I've made them hold chair pose for like an hour and a half.
Wait, what?
It used to be part of the curriculum.
Wait, what?
Because in one of my
I was like, she's going to say 5 minutes and that's going to be crazy.
No, but in my YTT, I did like a pranayama one in Bali.
Wait, I still can't understand how could you do that?
You can do it.
What?
You just do it. And it's like the mob mentality that everyone else is doing it. And after you get to a certain point, like the first time I did it, I never teach anything I haven't done myself. My teacher was like, we're going to do chair pose for 20 minutes. We're like, this is crazy. But it wasn't like full chair. It was like arms up, knees bent, which anyways, we're there for a while and we're like, feels like it's been more than 20 minutes, but whatever. Some of us were just in the zone and we did it for an hour and 45 minutes. And so I was like, this was amazing. I'm going to make my students do this. And every time, there's one group where usually you play music, but the music cut out. And so I told them what we were up to. And they just sang and chanted for the last 15 minutes. And they were so in it and so proud of themselves. And once you're like, I can do chair pose, because you hate chair pose. You do chair pose for 5 minutes or 5 breaths in a class. You're like,
5 breaths, you're already feeling a lot of difficulty. Yeah.
So you reprogram your mind and be like, wow, my mind is just messing with me all the time, but my body can actually do whatever my mind tells it to do.
Wow.
And like that one tangible practice, you're like, you start to question your mind where you're just like, you're tricking me right now. You're lazy. You don't want to be in discomfort, but yeah.
So the more we put ourselves in the discomfort, the more we can handle it.
I think just the less fear there is. You're like, why are we really scared of chair pose? Like, what do we think's really going to happen there? Like, our knees are going to combust. We're going to die. Like, I don't know. It feels like that. But once you realize nothing's really going to happen, you're like, oh, I guess there's a lot of moments in my life that I have fear, but it's really just the idea around it, and nothing's going to happen, or something really amazing is going to come from it. And so you just learn to lean into discomfort more. And the more you lean in and surrender to chair pose, like the more you can lean in and surrender to starting a new career, starting a new job, dating someone new, moving somewhere new. Like, it's just that little lean again, and it's not so scary anymore.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. It reminds me, like, I think I was trying to think, like, what was the most challenging thing that I've done? And I think maybe like 108 sun salutations.
Yeah, we've done that one too. It's crazy.
It's crazy. When you start, once you hit 20, you're like, oh no. How am I going to do the rest?
But then like there is like a method to it, right? You just surrender.
What I did was, after 20, when I realized that I was like struggling, I need something, I just started to dedicate each round to something, either a person in my life or a quality, or like nature, a quality in myself, something I want to bring it. Like, it was just dedicated to something, and that brought me so much strength. By the end of it, I was like so uplifted and energized. I felt connected, and I felt that it went by much faster because it was more than just me, it was in service, or in
like an offering.
Exactly, like an offering.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Hey, I'm quickly interrupting the episode to extend an invitation. If you are interested in deepening into any of the subjects we talk about on the podcast, we offer many different experiences on our beautiful grounds here in Baja, Mexico. From 9-day modules such as sound healing and yoga nidra, to breath and meditation, as well as 200 or 300-hour yoga teacher trainings, and many different shorter retreats. Check out our website, Yandara.com, to see all the information about the different experiences. Let's get back to the episode. So tell me about your journey as a yoga teacher, because we change and evolve so much from when we start and, throughout the whole journey. How was it to create your work and your career around something that was really your passion?
I mean, I guess in one word, turbulent. Wasn't very linear. The moment I did my YTT, there were so many magical moments in that training where I feel like I truly witnessed energy and, like, quite honestly, magic, like alchemized thought and intention into like a physical expression or experience that is like, oh, okay, this is the meaning of life. Because before that, I was very lost, just, kind of an unconscious 20-year-old who like was binge drinking and wanted to be the party girl. And so when I became a yoga teacher and came back up to Toronto, although that part of me was more awakened, my personality was still very much there. And that was still how I, connected with people. So it was I almost felt like I was living a double life because I would try to teach yoga and like I was trying to, work at these studios, any opportunity I could get my hands on. But then I was also like a bottle service girl and working all these random freaking jobs that were not in alignment with what I wanted to do. They're very different, social networks, very different everything. And I feel like not fully stepping into my power sooner. It took a lot longer because I was embarrassed of the person I still was. I didn't feel like I was honestly a yogi. Like I wasn't living like a yogi. Like I had addictive personality traits. I was just like lying and cheating and like doing all the bad things of yama niyama that you're not supposed to do. And so I feel like I self-sabotaged for a long time and like wouldn't go after certain opportunities or put myself out there because I like wasn't ready, because I wasn't living in my truth. But then, it came in doses. I went back and did another YTT, and that gave me a bit more, confidence. And I quit one bottle service job, and then I did another YTT, and each time I'd like come back, I felt a bit more stronger until I'd been like, okay, I've done like 4 YTTs now. Like, I feel like I really understand yoga, but there was still this component of, quite honestly, money, where I couldn't see financial security and abundance as a yoga teacher. I saw yoga teachers or personal trainers just burning out everywhere. And so, yeah, I guess I still felt like a fraud. And it wasn't until I had to go all in. It was like this pivotal point in my life where I was offered like a studio to start my own studio, or to like continue on managing this person's studio, or like whatever I was up to. I don't know. It was just nonsense. And so I asked actually my business partner, Janelle, I'm like, should I start the studio? Or like, I don't know. Like, I only really have like this much in savings. I had like $6,000 saved, which wasn't a lot to start a business. Like the whole house needed to be like painted, like transformed into a studio. And she was just like, yeah, you should do it. And I was just like, okay. And honestly, I think we were like laying in my bed after a party, like not consciously sober at all, just like talking nonsense at 3 a.m. And I made this huge life-changing decision. And the next day I just moved into the studio, and it was like, okay, now I have to be all in, because everyone is now witnessing me all the time. Like it was co-live, co-work. So I lived with 4 other people that were also yoga teachers. So I couldn't keep up with my old shenanigans. Like I had to let them go, because I guess I just started to have some like integrity. Like I started to feel like an integral person. Like, oh, this is what it feels like to really live in alignment. And like, even though I thought I could do things and get away with it, it's just like, I can't do it now, because I believe too much in energy, and I believe too much in the powers of like the higher selves and the higher realms, and like being seen and guided by source, that it was like, okay, if you keep self-sabotaging yourself, they're not going to help you. So yeah, it was like having to, I think that's an important part of, coming this way, or like making any big life decisions. Sometimes you have to burn your bridges, because you will walk back over them. Yeah. And you have to like, sometimes it's a nice bridge too. You're like, oh, I kind of want to go back. Like it's easier. There's more money. It's more chill, but it's not fulfilling you. So yeah, you have to like burn it, and then just be where you are and put all your eggs in one basket. And that was like, honestly, years. Like, I think I opened the studio when I was 26, so 6 years after my first YTT. And then the whole time I had that studio for about 8 years, I was kind of still dancing. Like it took me a while to really be like, okay, we are here. And then being a yoga teacher, trainer, facilitator, it like forces you have to be of a certain, you have to have certain values and be integral with your word, and like be living a yogic lifestyle. Otherwise I just think, hey, it's just hypocritical, and like to be of service and not to be in alignment. that's not good karma, Like, I believe in karma. I believe in all the things yoga preaches and teaches. So yeah, you have to give up. You got to give it up. You got to give up your shenanigans. Yeah.
I totally agree. The more, when you learn about this world and you realize that you can't fool energy, it's just whatever you put out is what's going to come back. So from the point of responsibility and really integrity, you know that you are responsible for the creation of your life, and therefore your actions will produce your life, and then you become more conscious of your actions. And I also totally agree with the point that you made about burning bridges and making commitments. I think that's a really good way, because when it's just a commitment to ourselves, it's easy to kind of cut corners and like, no one sees and no one knows. And for some reason, it's easier for us to do it when it's like a commitment we've made for ourselves or to ourselves. But when you really want to do something, it's so helpful to make that commitment in front of someone else. And then you have to really rise to the occasion and in that way. So I think that's a really important point. So like, if there's something you want to do or the listener wants to do, find a way to commit and even go like to a place where there is no return, because it forces you to do what you need to do.
Like to start hosting a class every week, because then you have to teach. So if nothing else, you have to be in practice every week. And like, I think as a new teacher, it's really good to teach a lot, because at least at the end of the day, you're practicing, on some level, and keeps you accountable.
For sure. A few months ago, I was doing a philosophy class every Sunday. And like, if I didn't know there was people that are going to show up to that class, it would have been much harder for me to sit and create that class. Like if it was just for a video or for, I don't know, something that I don't like know that people are going to show up for sure. I don't think that I would have done it.
Wait, you were teaching it? Oh, cool. Philosophy on?
It was kind of like every time different, but it was a mix of yoga and mainly Dharma.
Amazing.
And finding purpose. And it was actually when the war was going on, and I was trying to figure out how can I contribute in my own way, and it was free, and it was just like about creating community and a space for people to dream bigger, because it was such a state of survival. So it was in a service, but it really made me rise up to that moment of, you need to show up, you need to create. It was really made me sit down and pull all these different pieces of information and knowledge and teachings that I've had over the years and put them together in a class. And it was amazing to just be in that space, but in the way that it helped me was really meaningful as well.
Yeah, and I loved what you said about in your own way, because I think it's easy to get caught up in what other people expect or hop onto trends, but again, it's not in alignment, and then you just are doing this thing maybe, but it's not really showcasing your skills, your love, your passion, like finding a way to resonate with the teachings, and then also find a way to express so that it can be in service, but so that it like ticks all the boxes. Because I find, like, going back to just like all the classes I was teaching, like none of them was a single class I wanted to teach. Like I want to teach like Kundalini Tantra, like embodiment flow, not like asana, we're going to do like a back bend super deep. Is like, no, I want it to be energetic and spiritual. And none of those spaces were letting me do that. And it's like, okay, I'm losing my passion and zest to want to do this thing I was super passionate about, because I'm being put in a box. And in doing that, like, it's a disservice to the world when you're not sharing your gifts, like you're keeping secrets. It's still kind of lying. Like it's still not being fully in alignment, even though it's all these such small nuances to living in alignment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, because you mentioned this before about that stepping into your power and really embracing who you are. And I think that's really the key to a meaningful, purposeful life.
Mm-hmm.
And also specifically as yoga teachers, and also in relation to coming to a new place and to new studios and, finding your footing there. How are you navigating, because I know you're still in it, how are you navigating that space of being true to yourself and your value and your worth, all that you have cultivated during these years, and the opportunities that come to you?
Well, a lot of opportunities just do seem to be more in alignment. How? I mean, it's just a lot more of saying no. Just a lot more of like making that space. But then I think, who I am as a person is very colorful, and I'm talking about this like double life I was living. So much of that double life really actually taught me about yoga and taught me about energy work. Like,
in what way?
I mean, I don't know if you want to share this, but I'm happy to share it.
Go wherever you want to go.
I was like a sex worker for many years, and in those rooms of doing like erotic massage and tantric massage is when I really started to learn about tantra yoga. And this was before I really knew anything about tantra yoga, but I was practicing like putting up protection bubbles and like how to tap into different energy centers inside of me so I could have enough chi, or to not take on people's energies, or like all these little nuances I was intuitively doing in these containers was making me like a lot of experience working with energy and working with tantra. And so when people would ask me about like, oh, how'd you learn? It's like I felt like I couldn't fully share because I was kind of ashamed of it. But now there's no shame. I think that that colorfulness of my backstory is like so many opportunities that are presented to me. I'm just like very open because I'm very open. I can create a correlation between many things in yoga if you like give me enough time, or we can like get there eventually with anything. But yeah, a lot of my dark past was really like super yogic times. I think it's easy to be peace and light when everything's peace and light, but it's hard to stay peaceful when your whole world seems like dark and everyone's doing drugs and everyone's messed up and unstable and attached and super sexual or hyper something, and there's all these intense energies, and I'm just trying to be a yogi, trying to get a job at Y Yoga down the street, but at the same time I'm like dealing with the real yoga. It's like, like that was the real yoga of getting people to like tap into their breath and, listening to men that never had anyone listen to them before. All of a sudden you're like this safe space, and it was just such profound work. And it's almost feels so weird that like that felt like my first yoga studio almost in a sense, because it taught me so much about holding space, things that like the discomfort I faced in that space, which was safe and it was beautiful and it was all these things. I think there's also a lot of misconceptions about the industry that is really not understood. Like some of my best friends I ever met were from there, and we're still like dear long friends, but I think that's where real life is happening, like that's where real connections and like vulnerability and transparency between two strangers is happening in 40 minutes, and like life-changing experiences that all have to do with energy and awareness. And then your ability to let it go and go home to your condo and pretend like that just didn't happen all day, and like separate and find focus and peace again. There's a lot of discomfort in those like years of my life, and yeah, like really made me a stronger person, and like made me, I think, the teacher I am today.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was really brave and honest and authentic. I really appreciate you for doing that.
Thank you.
And I think that is so meaningful to anybody listening, because it just shows, first of all, that you can be conscious and present and a yogi in any space, and also that you now, as a yoga teacher trainer, leading all these beautiful girls and doing such beautiful, meaningful things with your life, it has come with a past, you know, and there's really nothing to be ashamed of. We all have our way that we get to where we are, and it makes us who we are. And I just really appreciate you for doing that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for hearing me.
So what do you feel you have taken from your beginning to where you are today?
I think that you never really know someone's story, to like, everyone's going through hard things, and to like apply as much compassion as you can, because sometimes the ones you think are going to be a bad egg are like the most beautiful souls, and sometimes the most beautiful souls are tricky, and you're like, you're not who I thought I was. So yeah, to just really stay open with people. And I think in life it's so easy to get jaded as we get older, especially as we learn more and we become more wise and into our, elderly crone years. It's easy to be jaded and unexcited by the little things. But to be able to keep that curiosity, like that childlike, almost naivety to life, is like the secret to staying happy. Like, even if you think you know, like, pretend you don't, because maybe you'll learn it in a different way. And maybe you think you have someone pinned, or you think you've done something 1,000 times. Maybe it can be different the 1,001th time, I'm at a point where I feel like I've done a lot and I want to retire, but I'm like, you're 33. You don't know that much. Like, humble yourself, stay curious, try again. You don't know as much as you think you know.
Yeah. So after 14 years of teaching, teacher trainings, and all the experience that you have so far, you also teach retreats with ayahuasca in Peru, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is your vision for the next few years? What are some dreams that you still feel that you want to bring to your life?
We are manifesting a school, honestly, quite like Yandara. Yandara is a little bit of our manifestation practice, to like live it and feel it and be like, okay, this is now integrated in our minds. Because I thought my lifelong dream was to have a studio, but then I got that when I was 26, and it kind of felt like the universe was saying, bigger, do more. I just really want to create a space where people can come and learn about the spiritual arts, and feel like Hogwarts, and everyone can just be as weird and out there, and it's just not weird, it's just normal. So
I love that.
Yeah,
I think we need more spaces like that you can just be your weird natural self.
Yeah, and like talk about all things that are woo-woo, and it just be like, it's like real data we're collecting now, and people tell me about their psychic experiences. It's like taking it a bit more seriously. Like, wow, people are really seeing energy. People are really like teleporting. People are really like, well, not teleporting. But psychic teleportation, like there's so many instances of it's not far away. We just don't talk about it enough that the collective consciousness, I think the collective consciousness is what's limiting us, because we're all like, no, you can't fly. We can't do these things. It's like, well, why not? Like, I practice flying every so often. I just think up really hard.
Has it worked so far?
I feel lighter some days. There's different levels to the course. I'm still designing it, but then you think up walking up a hill. I can actually show it to you. I'm working out the finessing, because until I fly, it's not credible. But I believe in these things. Just like where that's just normal. It's like, of course you're practicing flying 101. Get to class. Scoot along now.
I love it. Let me know when it's open. I'll be there.
I really hope. I feel like I'll be the first woman to fly. First person to fly.
Totally. But like, have you read Autobiography of a Yogi?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's what I really took from that book. I'm still in the middle of it. It takes me a long time to read this one. Mm-hmm. But it's like the things that we think are impossible are not really impossible. I mean, I am reading it and I'm like, it says about like teleportation and mind reading and a lot of crazy, impossible, supposedly things. Mm-hmm. And then I'm reading it with like a critical mind, like, okay, it's written as an autobiography, as a real story. And yet I know these things to not be possible, but it is expanding, or I think have been conditioned or am used to these things not being possible.
Yeah.
But it is expanding my mind as to maybe it is.
Yeah. Celestial Prophecy. Have you read that one?
I have. I love that book.
That's
amazing you brought that up.
Yeah. Reminds you of how powerful energy is and how it I think that's a bit more like easier way to think about like how our energy affects our environment and like can maybe change someone's reaction to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about what you learned from that book.
Well, I think the main thing it's talking about is like there's like these different types of energies, and once you start to tune in to the vibration of nature, you can start to be a bit more powerful, so that when there is maybe a more negative person or like a very dominating, powerful force coming to trying to intimidate you, that your field isn't altered and then they're winning. Because there's always kind of like this one person is always winning in a conversation, and you want harmony and resonance, but there's so many people unaware of that happening. So when you become aware, it's almost like on a different level, you become the higher power, and just start to win over these more evil powers that I think a lot of the just harmony in the world is now like psychic war almost, like there's a lot of healing being done in the ethers, and how you said you dedicated your sun salutations to people, like that's the sort of medicine we can also provide now. It doesn't always have to be this like tangible on this plane. I did something, like that's what Reiki is. That's what intention is. And I think that's when you feel powerless as like this one little person, how can I make a difference? It's like you really can make a difference if you just tap into that higher self and start to heal other people's higher selves, they don't always know how unhealed they are. Like unaware people, I don't think they think they're unaware. They think they are aware. They're not aware of their anger though. So yeah, I forgot about that book too. That's such a good one.
It's such a good book.
Mm-hmm.
I also, like, what I remember about it is really that dance of energy, that our energy is really communicating and meshing into each other. And you're right, they do speak about the fact that it's not like sometimes when you're in an interaction with someone and they're trying to steal your energy. Mm-hmm. And since I read that book, I realized that like that actually happens when somebody is in a desperate place or in a low place. And even, about myself, I notice that when I'm in a low place, sometimes my reaction is to reach out to somebody and try to get energy from them. But actually, it doesn't really make me feel better. And that taught me to stay in my own space and find the ways to raise my own energy before I interact with other people, and in that way take more responsibility for it.
Good point.
So on this path that you're on, and the development, that the real work that it is to be on this path, what is something that you are currently working with in unblocking, letting go, expansion that you are currently in?
I guess to go back to the other point around like feeling jaded with wisdom, I am dealing with so much insecurity. I don't know if it's like me just expecting more from myself, but every time we do one of these containers, I maybe feel more critical, or I don't know, I put so much pressure on myself that it should be different. And I don't know. There's a lot of comparison coming up, and just like a lot of insecurity. I think of just being a teacher. And I think after you've taught for a while, like ultimately there's some people that don't like your class. There's some people that love your class. There's some people that just, don't always jive. And sometimes I've let it really get to me and really make me question like my self-worth, my integrity as a teacher. Like, did I show up the best I can? Am I being one of those like egocentric gurus that like thinks I know everything and it's like my way or the highway? But that can kind of sabotage me into like, well, you do know some things, so like you have to share some of the, like, you designed this course, you have to teach them what you know. You can't just be like, what do you think all the time? Like they came here to pick your brain. And so I'm a projector, so I think learning a lot to be invited to things has helped a lot with that. And I honestly really feel that when people don't ask for my advice and I give it to them, I feel how they didn't want it. But being invited, and I now try to just like take the stage a bit more when there is that opportunity to like heal that wound a little and reassure myself. And being patient for those opportunities to arise. And just like you're like reassuring myself. I find whenever I feel insecure, I just self-study, and that like helps so much. Like I focus on the hobbies or just any little thing that I feel like I'm good at or I enjoy doing, and that really helps boost my confidence a lot and make me feel like in my body again. And it's not always yoga, but yeah, whatever that needs to be that day.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because I think it's really meaningful and helpful, like even after 14 years of teaching and so much experience in a yoga studio and school and all of that, like these things still come up.
Yeah. I mean, when I did the demo, I swear it was the worst class I've ever taught, ever. And
I'm sure nobody else thought that way, only you, but
well,
I understand.
Well, I learned from it because I was trying to replicate the teacher's class I'd been to before and do exactly what she did, because I'm like, okay, this is what the people here like. I'm just going to copy it. But it wasn't channeled. It wasn't present. I was trying to like keep up this fast vinyasa pace, which as like, I want to do like tantra, breath, breathe, maybe like oscillate your hips a little. And so when I was done, I was like, damn, that was not good. Because like, I wasn't having fun teaching it. I was stressed out. I wasn't focused. I was trying to remember what she did. And yeah, like it was just like, be yourself. Even if it's not what the people came for, they're going to enjoy it more if I'm having a good time.
100%.
And just like relax,
Yeah, and I think that that's really what
brings the right people to you, because when you truly are yourself, like, okay, maybe the ones that aren't right for you will fall away, but the ones that are right for you and love what you do are going to be your truest fans and stick with you for real.
Right? Because if all those people liked it and then I always had to do something I didn't like to do.
Oh my God, I can't think of a worse thing.
Right? It's actually the worst thing.
Yeah.
So you might as well not even taught
at all.
Don't even do it. Exactly. That's the key takeaway.
I love that.
Don't do things you don't want to do. Just don't do them.
Exactly. No, but it's really true. Like I think that learning to say no to the things that aren't right for you, or, you know, the versions of you that aren't right for you, is the most magnetic thing a person can do. Mm-hmm. The more you realize what you're not and what isn't in your value and in your worth, the more you attract the things that are.
I totally agree.
Sarah, thank you.
Thank you.
And just to wrap it up, I always ask, what are you curious about right now?
I'm curious about... Right now, I'm curious about if all my YTT students are going to do well in their teaching tomorrow, or if it's going to smell like stress sweat all day long.
Probably both.
Probably both, yeah.
Well, Sarah, I love this so much.
Yeah.
And I'm just so proud of you.
Thank you.
You're the sweetest, and thank you for this.
Thank you.
Now, after this time to nurture your mind and your spirit, we invite you to take a moment to consider others. A kind wish might come to mind. Know that what we learn becomes more valuable when we apply it and share it with others. So share this episode on Instagram stories, tag Yandara and I, or share with a loved one so that more people can benefit from it. Our hope is that the search will lead you home, to who you already are, to what was always there. We'll be back next week with more inspiration, honest conversation, and insight into the energetic world around us. Thank you for listening and watching.